Why is Hans Landa one of the greatest villains ever written? He's not loud, he's not violent in the traditional manner, and he doesn't want to rule the world. Hans Landa is terrifying for a much simpler reason. In Inglourious Basterds, Quentin Tarantino didn't create a villain who dominates through brute force. He created one who dominates through conversation, through charm, through patience. And that's exactly why Hans Landa feels so real and so disturbing. His first scene tells you everything. The opening scene at the dairy farm is one of the most perfectly written villain introductions in cinema. Landa arrives smiling. He compliments the farmer's daughters. He politely asks for milk. And the genius of the scene is this. Landa already knows the Jews are under the floor. The entire conversation isn't an interrogation. It's a performance. He lets Perrier Lapadite talk. He lets him relax. He lets him feel safe. Then Landa casually shifts languages from French to English. That's not random. That's Tarantino showing us that language, for Landa, is a weapon. English is the clean language, the one the hidden family can't understand. The moment Landa switches, the farmer is no longer speaking freely. He's being boxed in. And when Landa finally gives the order to shoot beneath the floorboards, he doesn't raise his voice. He concludes. That's the first lesson of Hans Landa. He doesn't explode. He arrives.
You're sheltering enemies of the state, are you not?
Yes.
You're sheltering them underneath your floorboards, aren't you?
Yes.
Point out to me the areas where they're hiding.
Secondly, he doesn't hate Jews, and that's the scariest part. Most movie Nazis are driven by ideology. Hatred fuels them. Hans Landa is different. He doesn't seem particularly anti-Semitic. He doesn't rant, he doesn't moralize. He hunts Jews because he's good at it. It earns him power, and he enjoys being exceptional. Landa even admits it openly. He compares himself to a rat hunter, not because he believes Jews are rats, but because society pays him to find them. This makes him horrifyingly believable, because real evil isn't always driven by hatred. Sometimes, it's driven by career ambition.
So you're the Jew hunter.
I'm a detective. A damn good detective. Finding people is my specialty, so naturally I worked for the Nazis finding people, and yes, some of them were Jews, but Jew hunter? Just a name that stuck.
He enjoys the game more than the result. One of the most unsettling things about Landa is how much fun he's having. He smiles constantly. He laughs at his own jokes. He compliments his enemies. Even during the strudel scene with Shoshana, he doesn't accuse her outright. He toys with her. He orders milk, the same milk from the opening scene, forcing the audience to remember exactly what milk symbolizes in this film. He waits. He watches her hands shake. He savors the tension. And then he leaves. Because for Hans Landa, fear is more satisfying than confirmation. He's a survivor, not a believer. Hans Landa's most revealing moment comes at the end of the film, not during violence, but during negotiation. When the Third Reich begins to collapse, Landa immediately pivots. No loyalty, no patriotism, no grand speeches. He wants a medal, immunity, a house on Nantucket. This isn't betrayal, it's consistency. Hans Landa was never a Nazi ideologue. He was a man exploiting a system while it existed. And the moment that system stopped serving him, he abandoned it without hesitation. That makes him feel real. That makes him modern. And that makes him uncomfortable to recognize.
Gentlemen, I have no intention of killing Hitler and killing Goebbels and killing Goering and killing Bormann, not to mention winning the war single-handedly for the Allies, only later to find myself standing before a Jewish tribunal.
finally, he thinks he's smarter than everyone, and usually he is. One reason Landa works so well is that the movie allows him to win. He outsmarts the farmer, the resistance, the bastards, even Hitler in his own way. The only reason he loses is because he underestimates one thing: human spite. Lieutenant Aldo Raine carving a swastika into his forehead isn't about justice. It's about ensuring that someone like Landa can never escape consequence through charm again. For the first time, Landa doesn't get to talk his way out, and that's poetic. In conclusion, Hans Landa isn't one of the greatest villains because he's cruel. He's one of the greatest villains because he's polite, intelligent, self-interested, and terrifyingly adaptable. He represents a kind of evil that doesn't scream, it smiles. The kind that doesn't believe in anything except winning. And that's why Hans Landa lingers with us long after the movie ends. Because we don't just recognize him as a villain, we recognize him as a person.